Everybody, thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Knives Out. I am super happy to be once again joined by Rashad G Reviews for another collab review. We're going to be hearing from him in just a little bit, but you can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. Let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on Knives Out. So Knives Out, written and directed by Rian Johnson, just coming out of a very divisive period in his life with Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I highly recommend you guys go and check out my review of The Last Jedi that I did with the Big Rob Theory and Trav Tries, where I talk about how much I love that movie. Now, you may be checking out already if you're a hater of that film, but what I will say is the film does have flaws and things about the film that Rian Johnson chose to do that I do not love, but that's a whole different video. You guys can go and check that out. But the reason I even bring that up is because I remember when I was listening to a bunch of my favorite reviewers talk about The Last Jedi, they mentioned that they felt like The Last Jedi was not a great Star Wars film, but was a great Rian Johnson film. And I like that approach to that, even though I don't agree with it entirely. But what they really meant by that is the fact that Rian Johnson is famous for just doing subversions of expectations in his films. Sometimes, in the case of Star Wars, he would subvert things that didn't necessarily need to be subverted. But what I can say overall is I find him to be a really interesting filmmaker who, when he does make original stories, is able to use that kind of tool that he has to subvert expectations to do something really cool and fun. And in the case of Knives Out, I think it works out really, really well. This is an incredibly well-directed, well-written, well-acted film that does something really cool and unique with the whodunit genre, the murder mystery genre. This is the genre that we've seen done so many times before. And if you're like me and kind of dip your toes in as many mediums of entertainment as you can, anything from movies to TV shows to video games to books to comic books, murder mysteries and the whodunit genre has just been so overdone, and you really do have to kind of bring in a really solid cast and do something different to kind of stand out. And Rian Johnson did exactly that with this film. Like I said, this is a very well-directed, very well-acted film that has great music and has great cinematography. This film has an incredible cast with people like Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans, Toni Collette, and the late great Christopher Plummer. There's just so many great people in this film, and I just thoroughly enjoy the cast on an overall level, the nuance that they bring to the performances and the performances overall. But what I can say beyond that really works is the way that Rian Johnson chose to tell the story. He chose to tell the story in a very fun and whimsical, over-the-top way that takes the murder mystery genre and does something different with it. I'm going to avoid spoilers because the film is still fairly new. It's not super new, and I know that I've been talking spoilers a lot more lately, but just for the sake of anybody who's watching this and has not seen the movie, maybe they're just kind of like Rashad, when we're going to hear from him in just a moment, where you kind of just missed it and you weren't really super interested in it. I hope you go and check it out after this review, because I do think it's a really good movie to go into 100% blind. But the one thing I do want to mention that I really enjoy about this film, and it's part of the whole Rian Johnson subversion of expectations, is that not long into the film, we learn kind of who done it. We learn how the person who died in this film dies. And, you know, the basic premise of this film is that you have Christopher Plummer's character, essentially the grandfather, the elder of the family, and he's got all these different family members that are kind of leeching off of him, or kind of, you know, they're kind of using him. You know what I mean? You kind of learn throughout the course of the film that this whole family is kind of fucked up in different ways. But yeah, he's the one who ends up dying, and the whole murder mystery has to do with the family, like who done it. You know what I mean? It's your classic murder mystery. You have Daniel Craig as this very over-the-top Southern detective, which I thought was kind of funny. I really enjoy him as the detective in this film. And yeah, it's just a big, fun, over-the-top, kind of whimsical, kind of silly murder mystery that takes those, you know, tropes that you know from those other films, but kind of subverts them and does something different with them. And in this case, like I just mentioned, we learn how Christopher Plummer's character dies fairly early on in the film. But it's not about necessarily who done it in this film. It's about who had kind of made it happen. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know how to really word it that kind of works with who done it, but it's like, you know, essentially who is the person who kind of slowly made things happen to the point that this ends up happening, that this character ends up dying the way that they do, even though we as an audience see it from one perspective and kind of, learn exactly how it was done and who done it in a way, right out of the gate, pretty early on in the film. I hope that makes sense. If not, sorry. If you've seen the film, I feel like you understand what I'm saying. If you haven't seen the film, then maybe you don't understand what I'm saying, and that's totally fine. You should go check the film out. But what I can say is that overall, I found this to be a good time. I wasn't absolutely in love with it, but I found it to be incredibly well made on a technical level, and I do highly recommend it. Now, I've rambled a lot longer than I intended to for this earlier part of the review. Let's go ahead and hear what Rashad Reviews have to say about this.
Perez, what's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? So here it is. Our tit for tat saga continues. Another entry into this epic chapter of ours. And this time you got me watching Knives Out. I was a little excited about watching this because I missed out on it. I had no interest in it. But I heard a lot of good things about it. But then I heard a couple of whispers of how it wasn't so good. So I'm like, okay, let me check this out. And of course, it's directed by Rian Johnson. A lot of Star Wars fans want to hit out on this guy because of The Last Jedi. I don't fall into that category. Don't trip. I enjoy The Last Jedi for what it was. I think Rian Johnson is talented, so I'm not going to hate on the man. Before I get into what I thought about this movie, I just want to go over the phases that I went through watching it. So here's phase one. Just looking at the movie. I had it on my projector now. I'm looking at the movie. I'm like, okay. About 20 minutes into it, I'm like this. And then about 50 minutes into it, I'm like, by the hour and 20 in, I'm like this here. You know what, but look, I shouldn't say because it was boring. I think maybe just because I was tired. But honestly, this movie did not grip my attention. So, did I like this movie? No. But, with that being said, and it feels funny saying this, and maybe I'm tripping, y'all, but even though I did not care for this movie, I respect how this movie was made. So this is a very well-made film. The writing is really good. The acting is really good. The musical score is really good. The shots, the way Rian Johnson directed this, okay, I think Rian Johnson showed the fuck out on this movie. Everything about it. This could probably be his masterpiece, in his body of work. Whenever he does more stuff, you can always go back and say Knives Out was probably his masterpiece, all right? So this is a very well-made movie. I'm in admiration of Rian Johnson's talent as a filmmaker, and even the performances. I thought Daniel Craig probably was the standout here. Chris Evans was pretty good in the movie. This had an all-star cast too, man. Don Johnson, Jamie Lee Curtis, what's his name? Michael Shannon, I think his name is, from Man of Steel. You know what I'm saying? A lot of talent in this movie, and everybody did their thing. But the story of it, it's just not my cup of tequila. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like Clue, like one of those mystery type deals, and stuff like that doesn't get me. Unless there's a cape and cowl involved, I don't care about mystery stories, you know what I mean? Because right now I'm reading the Long Halloween, the Batman graphic novel, and it kind of has this tone, but it's on more some gangster shit. But yeah, unless it's a cape and cowl, I can't get into these mystery dramas. So it's like a mystery drama / comedy because there's a lot of comedic elements in here, and it's entertaining somewhat, but it wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? So I can't shit on this as far as like, damn, this movie's just terrible acting and all. No, this was a very well made film. It wasn't for me, man. It wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? Some people love chitlins. I just can't eat it. That's probably a bad metaphor. Why am I always comparing shit to food? I kept dozing off, and I think a lot of it was because I'm a little under the weather still. I was medicated. This movie just didn't do a whole lot for me. I won't be watching this anytime soon, but I can recommend it because I feel like to anybody that does like this genre and does like this type of material, I think they will love it. You know what I'm saying? So if people say this movie was great, I'll be like, yo, that was for you. You know what I mean? So that's it, y'all. Giving it a grade, I'll give it a C, just because even though it wasn't for me, I thought it was very well made. All right, so Perez, thank you, brother. I think next time you're watching Fight Club, I believe. And I'll be waiting for your next pick for me as well. So thank you once again, bro. Our tit for tat saga continues. The floor is yours. What you got, homie?
As usual, a big thanks to Rashad for being here in this video. You guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love. And yeah, man, I love the fact that you were able to say that this movie just wasn't for you, right? Because there were moments in the film where I felt it was a little slow, I was getting a little bored, maybe I was losing my attention a little bit. And I think what I can say overall is, though I really enjoyed the film, I can definitely say that I don't think I loved it as much as some people really praised it. You know, I found it to be an incredibly well-made film, kind of like you did. Very well done technically. It's a very well acted, well directed film, well shot, great music. Everything about how cleverly written the film was, and just the way that the film was put together on an artistic and just objective level was well done. But yeah, I think it really comes down to the fact that for me, there wasn't a lot of characters to latch onto in this film. The only real character that you really do latch onto throughout the course of the film is Marta, the main character. It's fun to watch all the other actors and characters throughout the course of the film, but Marta was the only real character that you ever find any sort of emotional attachment to, which I feel, for at least for me, and I'm sure for you as well, Rashad, and for all of you guys watching, it's kind of the main thing you want out of a movie. You want to be able to feel emotionally attached to at least one character or a few characters. And with a movie like this, where you have this family, where you start to kind of peel back the layers and realize that everybody's kind of an asshole and everybody can kind of be a suspect for different reasons, and you have this one singular character that's kind of like the likable character, it totally makes sense to me that this movie wouldn't have done it for you, Rashad. Because what I can say is that though I loved how technically well put together this film was, there were elements about it that I found to just be a little bit just kind of bland in terms of just my feelings towards these characters, while also being able to recognize that technically it's incredibly well put together. It is a bit of a complex feeling for me, where I can agree that the film is so well made, but I can understand where it maybe just is not your cup of tea. So I am very curious what you guys have to say about this film. Do you like Knives Out? Do you not like Knives Out? I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Comment those thoughts down below. Maybe some people think this movie sucks. I am very curious to hear what everybody has to say. So comment your thoughts down below. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more videos. I'll see you guys in the next one, all right? Bye-bye.